welcome to Common Sense Medicine.
Yes.
It's a new health podcast that is evidence-based, trying to get information out to people so that they better understand their health.
That's right. Just trying to make regular medical knowledge more common.
Yeah, and I think, after we've been seeing patients for a while, we realize that's what people need. They just need more information to better understand their health so they can make better educated decisions for their health.
That's right.
Go ahead. You are Melissa Wood.
That's right. Family nurse practitioner with additional certification in lifestyle medicine.
Which is awesome. And I am Tim Chen. I'm a family physician that has big interest in public health and evidence-based medicine.
That's right.
Now, again, this podcast is just, I guess, disclaimer time, right? This is just a podcast for medical information. This is not medical advice personalized for people because we don't know what people are going through.
That's right. That's right. So if you have any questions, any concerns, definitely consult with your provider before implementing anything new.
Perfect. So now that's out of the way, we're going to get into today's podcast.
Let's do it.
Hey, Melissa.
Hey.
Here we are again.
Here we go.
Another episode of Common Sense Medicine.
Yes.
And this one is by, I would say, popular demand.
For sure.
For sure. Mainly because, you see advertisements of stuff all the time on TV, right? And even on your social media, if you start looking for things, it constantly advertises to you based on your search results. Well, I think one of the things I've been seeing all over social media and all over the news and all over people, all patients coming and asking us is this issue of testosterone.
Yes. Yes. What happened to everybody's testosterone? Or is it even a problem?
Correct. So today, that's our topic. We'll be talking about testosterone, this diagnosis of low T, maybe what are some of the symptoms that people complain about, and then we'll dig into some of the studies, like what do the studies show, right? And then, of course, we'll talk about maybe what is this thing called placebo effect, because people hear about it or people might not know. And it's actually really important in why studies might show certain things versus others. And then we'll actually talk about, okay, really, what is going on with testosterone and how can we actually fix it? So you want to hear the whole show.
Yes.
Yes.
Stick around.
Stick around. Okay. All right, Melissa. Well, let's talk about testosterone. Okay. So there is this thing called hypogonadism, right? So testosterone is a hormone the body regulates just like any other hormone. And it's a complicated system between the brain and, of course, the male organs to produce how much testosterone that your body needs at any time. And so some people, testicular cancer, brain trauma, radiation, infection like mumps, luckily we have vaccines for that. People like that will have issues with testosterone. And so it wasn't uncommon, you go do surgery, replace their testosterone, they feel better. Okay, and that's all fine. That's all dandy. That's called hypogonadism. It's a real issue. But the issue now became where we were giving healthy men without those problems testosterone. And we actually rebranded it and called it low T.
Yes, and now everybody wants it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's one of those things like it sounds like it should make sense, right? So we don't have enough testosterone. Therefore, if I give it back, I should feel better. And I actually stumbled on this low T questionnaire because, you hear the commercials like, find out if you have low T. I sound like a commercial guy on the microphone. By doing these, online questionnaires. And I brought the questionnaire and we can talk about it.
Okay.
So this is something that as a guy, if you're like, I want to know what this low T thing is, you go online and you type it in and there's a questionnaire. And so the first question is about libido, right? That's probably the most common one. People are like, I have no drive. I have no interest anymore. And so the wife might be like, you have a problem. Go get tested. The second one is lack of energy.
Who doesn't?
Listen, do you have energy?
Yeah, I think any busy working adults may find that their energy is zapped at times.
Exactly. Kind of a vague symptom, right? The second one, this is interesting. Do you have a decrease in strength or endurance? And again, that's kind of okay, compared to what? Compared to when I was 18? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, can you do the things that you could do at 18 or 23? And that's what we hear a lot. People will say, I know there's something wrong. I just don't feel like I'm 21 anymore.
Yeah.
Like, because you're not 21 anymore. That's
Right.
called aging.
Oh my goodness. Exactly. And I think that's the important distinction part as we're going through that is that normal aging, you're starting about age 30, men's testosterone actually goes down about 1% to 1.3% every single year. And that is normal. That is what's supposed to happen. That is actually fine. And so what we don't want to do is do things to stop what is actually supposed to be naturally happening in the body. Right. So, moving on. Have you lost height? I don't measure myself.
No, I don't think most adults do.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're teenagers, we
Correct.
like measure every week to see if we've gotten that extra inch that we wanted. But yeah, I haven't measured myself in,
Yeah.
30 years. Maybe not quite that long.
Exactly. It's been a
I'm
minute.
giving my age away.
Oh, Melissa, you look like you could put on a backpack and walk on a college campus and just blend right in. Okay, the next question is, have you noticed a decreased enjoyment of life? And that one is almost like, okay, so I was talking actually to a patient the other day. He was like, when I was 18, I didn't have kids. I can go work out when I want to. I can eat what I want to. I can do what I want. And now I have kids. I have work. My boss is always, on me about timelines and deadlines, and kids have soccer and blah, 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 blah. I'm not as happy anymore. And you're like, understandable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different type of life.
Yeah.
At 45 versus 20 or whatever the case may be. It's just a completely different picture. So, and just because you're maybe not satisfied with that or, not feeling the best about that season of life, that doesn't, it doesn't always mean it's something like testosterone. There's lots of other factors.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what makes some of these questions so hard because they're so vague. Because depression.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Depression.
Yeah. Christmas holidays. I mean, Christmas holidays, some people love their families. Some people are not always excited. And they just don't feel like they enjoy the holidays as much. It's not a testosterone thing. It's just a life thing. Right. So, another one, are you sad or grumpy? And I hear this a lot too. Guys will be like, I just fly off the handle. My work is on me. My wife is telling me this and that. My kids are acting crazy and I just get so irritated all the time. It's gotta be my testosterone. And you're right. It's like, well, maybe it's just, you've got too much on your plate at one time. Okay. This is an interesting one. Have you noticed a recent deterioration in your ability to play sports?
Have you tried to do anything that you used to do? Like sports that you used to do?
Yeah.
Just try it again. Like I've tried to do a cartwheel as an adult versus as, a child or a teenager.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
It's not the same.
There may have been like a muscle or two pulled.
Exactly. It's just not, it's not the same. Yeah. I remember, playing church basketball and we play a lot with the youth. They're 18, they're 17-year-old boys and we'll be jumping up for the ball and I'm coming down and they're still going up. And I was like, that's just, but again, it's like you're 18, you've got all the energy, kids, right? You're young, you're healthy, you can stay up and do all-nighters. Now Melissa, I have not seen a ball drop for New Year's in forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not the same anymore, which is okay.
It's okay. Yeah. That's just, normal process of life.
That's right. Okay, only 2 more questions. Are you falling asleep after dinner?
I think a lot of people do.
I think a lot depends on what we eat too.
Yeah. What we eat. Yeah. What the rest of our day has looked like. What kind of sleep did we get the night before?
Yeah. So that one, again, very vague question. Hard to tell. This one, has there been a recent deterioration in your work performance? I call that burnout.
Could be.
Yeah. So, right. Again, I mean, it's like, okay. So anyway, as you answer these questions, most people I would say it would be probably more rare for people to answer no on everything than people to answer yes on a bunch of things.
Yeah. I think most people could answer yes to most of those.
Exactly. And then, obviously if you answer yes, it'll send you an answer and it says, you have low testosterone. Seek your, healthcare provider to get tested and blah, blah, blah. And so people will be, will come in and talk and they'll ask about it and they just want to know. And some people are generally curious. They're like, I just want to know. Some people are a little pushy. They're like, I know I have this problem and I need testosterone now. Or they'll go to a men's health clinic or a youth clinic to try to address these things. But Melissa, if you just look at these questions, they don't tell you a whole lot about anything else that it could be.
Right. And yeah, if we don't address the other issues and just start taking testosterone, then we're still going to have the same underlying issues. So a lot of people don't like to take certain medications unless absolutely necessary. This is one of those cases. Well, are there other things that we could address first and still get the same outcome of improved energy, improved life satisfaction, improved whatever else without, treating the thing that's not actually the cause.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. I have so many patients come in always saying things like, right, I always want to get to the root cause. I don't want to take a pill to just mask symptoms. And I completely agree with that, except for when it comes to this. And exactly.
Then everybody's like, I want to mask all those symptoms.
That's right. I don't address any of the root causes. I want to mask all the symptoms. And really, I mean, how we started off this podcast, testosterone is a heavily regulated hormone in the body. And so maybe it's not the low testosterone causing the symptoms. Rather, the symptoms of what your body's going through is telling your body, I don't need as much testosterone. So in the end, when we wrap this thing up, we'll actually try to tease out maybe some of the things that we see all the time that always will contribute to your, to lower testosterone levels. Kind of like those, reels and memes, like 5 reasons why your testosterone is low.
Right. And maybe talk about too, what is low? A lot of people have a certain number in their mind where, we'll tell them, well, your testosterone is normal. And they're like, I want it above 800.
Yeah.
Because they've read that somewhere that they, as a, 45-year-old man want, or need a testosterone of 800.
Yeah.
And there's some dangers to that.
There is definitely some dangers to that. Yeah, no, exactly. And I guess what we're talking about here, okay, so if you are using testosterone to get to 2,000 to get jacked in the gym so you can post on your Instagram, this is not what we're talking about. Because obviously, I think most people realize that is not a smart thing to do. The body is not meant to do that. People don't look that way. And when they stop the testosterone, their body goes through all sorts of crazy mess because literally the body forgets to make testosterone because you've been at unnatural levels for too long. But what we're talking about here is people that maybe say, okay, look, I'm not trying to go to the gym and gain 40 pounds of muscle. I'm just trying to, have less fatigue, maybe help my concentration, help my cognition, help my quality of life, help my, erectile dysfunction, whatever the issue is. People will use testosterone for that. And guess what? We have studies.
We do.
Melissa, I really need to stop looking at testosterone studies because my ads are starting to go funny on my Facebook.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, Jen's going to be like, what are you looking at? I was like, nothing. So, all right. So let's start here. Testosterone replacement for memory. Right. So a lot of guys say, look, I just can't remember things as I used to. It's got to be my testosterone level. They actually did a 12-month randomized control trial. So if you're not quite sure what a randomized control trial is or what that means, we'll kind of talk about it later. But last podcast, we actually brought that up. Like, what did this mean? So essentially what they did, the short answer is they gave 2 groups of men, one group testosterone, one group, they gave them a shot, called it testosterone, but it wasn't. It was just a placebo or sugar pill or something fake, right? But anyway, both men feel like they got testosterone, and researchers sometimes don't know who got what either. So it's kind of a blinded, no one knows who got what. We're now doing studies on how well your memory is. So in this trial, they gave them really good doses of testosterone. They found people truly with low testosterone, less than 60. So these are truly older men in their 60s with low testosterone. Gave them 200 milligrams every other week, which is a normal dose, sometimes even a little higher dose for a lot of men. And then they did memory tests on all of them. And the answer, no difference.
No difference.
Yep. None. Okay. Next, let's look at people who say, well, I want quality of life. My quality of life is horrible. They actually did a study in 2000 in Hartford looking at 65-year-old men about quality of life. So they gave them high doses of testosterone. Same thing. Another group, no testosterone, just told them it was testosterone, measured a bunch of questionnaires and measurements of quality of life. No difference.
No difference.
All right, Melissa, I am getting a
I
lot.
feel like this is a repeat of our vitamin one last week. Like, nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
That's nothing.
There's nothing, right? Okay, so now people who are listening are like, this is bull. I felt different. Okay, we're going to keep going, and then we might talk about why this happens, okay? People with depression. So they actually gave it in 2001 in Colombia to a bunch of men. Same thing. They've got major depressive disorder. Half of them get testosterone. Half of them might get sugar pill. No difference. So we're already batting zero, right? No change in quality of life. No change in depression. No change in memory. Cognition. All right. I actually had a couple of them. Some of them, they actually did a trial in Alzheimer's. Did one in Parkinson's where they gave people half of them testosterone, other half a sugar shot, told them testosterone, and measured cognition. So they did cognition and spatial tests in these men. No difference. And this was done in 2008. All right. Erectile dysfunction. Now, this one's interesting because a lot of guys say, of course, this helps with erectile dysfunction. 2012, they did a study where they actually broke people into 3 groups. Viagra alone, Viagra plus testosterone, and then nothing. Sugar shot, no pills. And what they found out was, of course, Viagra works because we have data on that, but testosterone did not add any more benefit than Viagra itself. Okay. Sexual symptoms in people with type 2 diabetes. And we'll talk about why they chose type 2 diabetes in people with obesity. Again, another randomized control trial. This was done, and it showed no difference in sexual drive.
No difference.
All right. And finally, a systematic review. What they did was they took 14 studies of the most high quality randomized control trials. Let's just shoot for the moon. Something it has to show. And they looked at everything from, lifestyle, virility, quality of life, sleep, depression, anything. And what they found was that did not do anything. Right? Effective muscle mass, which we knew you could do that. But most studies found no mood-related endpoints, no beneficial psychological well-being, no difference in sexual health, and physical function, mood, cognitive function, it's all 0. So what we're saying here is these are the highest quality trials we have, randomized control trials. We've got no benefit. And of course, this is different than say, well, my brother did it and he felt better. But that level of evidence is like, I did a rain dance and it started raining. And if we learn from last week's vitamins, we can't trust, that's not enough for us to learn anything. Right. And so, Melissa, how come when I give someone testosterone, which people get it and they feel better, because I have patients that come in and they feel better. But then if I give them a shot and call it testosterone, they also feel better. Or there's no difference.
Right.
What's going on there?
Probably the placebo effect. You kind of tossed this up earlier. But yeah, definitely. Especially when we're so convinced that this is the problem, that this is the answer to our problems. And if we take something that is the supposed answer.
Correct.
We feel better. It's a proven fact that there is a placebo effect.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And this is why these trials are important, because we need to tease out how much of it is actually the medication and how much of it is actually placebo effect, which is exactly right. And I think when we tell people how powerful the brain is, people kind of blah, blah, blah. It's not my brain. It's not my brain. Your brain can do a lot of things and it can make you feel all sorts of ways, right? And so you're exactly right. Sometimes when people feel like they're supposed to feel better, they do. And so when you're giving these shots and they don't know what they're doing, but you're telling them this is testosterone, it'll make you feel great. You can say all sorts of things. People actually will feel better about 30% of the time. Yeah.
And it also depends on what you're doing along with it. So maybe if someone is, taking testosterone, and even if it starts with that placebo effect and they're like, oh, I'm starting to feel better. I'm going to go to the gym and make better food choices and I'm actually sleeping better. And then those things also feed into how they feel.
Correct.
So there's other factors also that could be, adding to that effect.
Yeah. And I guess what we're saying with these studies is it's not saying people didn't feel better. It's just they didn't feel better compared to someone who thought they were getting testosterone. So it wasn't the medication that was making them feel better per se, but it was more their thought. And before people say, well, this is craziness, this doesn't happen. This actually happens in a lot of different things. So I'm going to segue a little bit because I want to talk about the power of this placebo effect. We know that if someone comes in the hospital with a heart attack, crushing chest pain, shortness of breath, we go in there, we pop a stent, they're going to feel better, right? Well, what about people who don't have heart attacks, right? Maybe when they walk, they have some chest pain and shortness of breath, but when they rest, it feels better. So that's called stable angina. And we actually used to go in there and pop stents in people like that too. So they don't have a heart attack. They're not actually having a heart attack, but they do have some blockage. I'm going to go in there and pop a stent and make them feel better. All right. Well, they did a couple of trials on that. First of all, it didn't extend anyone's life. So we're like, okay, well, that's interesting. But what it did show was people walked on the treadmill about 30 seconds longer if they had a stent than when they didn't. So people were like, okay, well, at least we'll pop the stent just for quality of life changes. But in Europe, they do placebo trials. All right. And this is very interesting. So in these people, again, they have coronary artery disease. They have heart block. What they did was half of them, they went in there and popped a stent open. The other half, they went in there and the doctor talked like they were putting a stent in, like, hey, I need this instrument. I need this, oh, you're going to feel something, but they didn't pop a stent in. They just told them they did. And this was called the Orbiter trial. This was done in the UK back, I think, in 2017. So pull this out. So again, think about it. Two groups of people truly have heart disease. I have plaque. I've seen it. One group, I went and actually physically opened things up. The other group, I made them think I did. I didn't do jack to them. And I put them on a treadmill. They both walked the same distance. All right.
That's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the thought that something was done.
Yeah. And so again, that's what we're talking about here. These testosterone trials, for the guys who are trying to get jacked, that's a different category. We can talk about that and the dangers of that. But testosterone, if it doesn't really make that big of a difference compared to sugar pills, and it doesn't have any harm, that'd be one thing. But there is harm. Yeah. And in fact, the labeling of testosterone changed in 2017 because there were like 4 studies back to back that showed, hey, these guys might have higher heart attack risk, higher prostate cancer risk, a bunch of other issues, higher stroke risk. And so that makes this not a benign drug. And I'll say, I've seen it. I have patients come in, testosterone is way too high. Their liver function is off. Their blood counts are off. Their cholesterol is off. Their PS, everything is off. And once they stop the testosterone, cut back, everything falls back into place. So this is not something to play around with.
Right. Yeah. We've seen patients with, a stroke in their 40s, blood clots going from their legs to their lungs, at a otherwise normal, healthy 50-year-old man, different things like that, really dangerous conditions. Some people don't just survive those things or have lifelong complications from those as well. So it's not something to play around with. And, I've even had patients that have, say a normal level. I say, don't need treatment, but then they'll go to the next clinic around the corner that gives it to anybody and everybody, and they'll get on it anyway. That still does not make it safe.
Correct.
So
exactly. And so I guess what the final message about that is these things in studies really don't show much more benefit than just giving you a sugar shot and calling it testosterone. But they do have physiological dangers. So you really have to be cautious and careful. Now, Melissa, let's kind of segue to the final segment of our podcast, talking about maybe why people might have lower levels and what they can do about it. So a couple of things we've noticed, and this has actually been done by studies, is obesity and type 2 diabetes and uncontrolled high blood pressure and lack of sleep and high stress. These things actually all contribute to the body making less testosterone.
Yeah, if your body is constantly under these additional stressors, whether, physical stress, a stress from a disease or other condition, yeah, your body is going to say, we don't need to reproduce right now.
That's right.
We're just struggling to keep up with everything else. So yeah, some things are going to suffer, and testosterone and how you feel because of testosterone and other other factors is going to suffer.
Yeah, we've had actually a couple of studies looking at things like that. The higher the cortisol level goes, which is highly linked with stress, the lower the testosterone goes. And so it's almost like instead of testosterone being the root problem and you fix the testosterone, everything else falls in place, it's actually more of an indication that the body is struggling, right? And so, like you said, when we're highly stressed, we don't sleep, which is a problem because testosterone is actually made in your sleep. So obviously if you're not sleeping, whether because we're on our electronics late at night, we're drinking alcohol, so that's affecting our sleep rhythm, which alcohol also affects testosterone. Diabetes, that's completely uncontrolled, right? So we're eating a lot of processed sugars. The body doesn't nutrition. It's like the body is telling you, hey, first, like I said, there's no point to bring a child into the world when I can barely take care of myself. And so that almost tells you the root problem isn't testosterone. It's all the other metabolic diseases that is so prevalent in our society that if we don't address those things, fixing testosterone by itself really wouldn't do anything.
Right. Yeah. And there you go back to that root cause. We have to really get to the bottom of it. And for most people, testosterone is not the bottom of it. So for the conditions that truly do warrant testosterone replacement, if you are found to have a low testosterone, really standard of care is to repeat that test. 3 times, really. I know some do it at least twice, but even some evidence says at least 3 times because, testosterone fluctuates on a day-to-day basis. It can fluctuate a lot just depending on those life circumstances on a day-to-day basis. So just because you get one low reading does not necessarily mean that you have to go on testosterone. If you get one low reading, maybe followed by another one, go see an endocrinologist to really discuss your options and see if there is something else going on or if that is truly the route that you need to go. Don't just go to the first men's clinic and just start treating things blindly.
Correct. No, you're exactly right. And right, the endocrinologist can actually let you know what the normal levels are and what they should be, right? It's like there's no point for a guy who's 50 who's trying to get their testosterone the same as when they were 18. Because like we said before, aging naturally lowers testosterone and that is natural aging. And we should never make aging a disease because aging is something that our body goes through. But you're exactly right. Checking it more than once is important. Making sure that they might say low normal, and that's okay. In fact, if it says low normal, maybe the first thing we start with is, okay, maybe we fix some of our lifestyle issues. Maybe work on nutrition. We work on weight loss. And I've had some patients say, well, I can't lose weight without testosterone. That is absolutely not true. You absolutely can. And in fact, I'll say I had a patient come in this week and I really wanted to congratulate him because he has done so well. He had diabetes. He was obese. He's been working on his lifestyle, working with our coaches, really becoming serious about it. I mean, it's easy to say like, I want to lose weight. But if you don't have a plan, you're not serious about it. It's kind of like, okay, what are we really doing here? But he actually became really serious. He's lost significant weight and his wife attests that the testosterone is back to normal. I mean, he feels great. Everything looks great. I mean, and so that kind of tells you that, you know what? That's the root cause. If we fix that, actually, the hormonal part actually will balance itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the case in a lot of cases, really. It really comes from other things being out of whack. And then once we get everything else back on track, the hormones usually follow.
Yeah. So, and with that, I guess, Melissa, it's a good time to wrap things up. So like we said, testosterone, there is true hypogonadism. That is usually treated by an endocrinologist. If you think you have something like that, having them check it out is important. Low T, for the most part, if you do the questionnaire, you're going to have it. It's kind of like ADHD. If you do the questionnaire,
you're going to have it.
You're going to have it. Right? And if you draw blood just once, you might detect it 1 out of every 10 times, but you really need a couple of readings. And the second thing is we really cannot neglect the lifestyle aspect, right? If you fix the lifestyle, actually a lot of times the body will fix itself. But if we treat low T, there is risks for it, especially in healthy men, otherwise healthy men, right? There's risk for it. There's almost no benefit from it, more than any sugar pill. And that's something that can become dangerous. And so as, clinicians and practitioners, we don't want you to do anything dangerous. if you are interested in more nutrition guidelines, obviously our clinic, we are very focused on nutrition, lifestyle, sleep, stress. Our podcasts are our episodes where we talk about plant-based, maybe lower carb, what those things do. So if you're interested in that, check out our podcast. Melissa, any final closing thoughts that you have?
No, I mean, I think this feels like a common thread in a lot of our podcasts. It's like, each of these conditions, whether it's obesity, ADHD, testosterone, everybody wants the magic bullet for those conditions. And then they think once they get that, everything else will fall into place. But really, it comes down to addressing the lifestyle first, and then usually everything else will fall into place. There's no quick fix. And that's, I think, what people get in trouble with when they're looking for testosterone or Ozempic or Adderall or whatever it is. It's that quick fix. But if we don't address the lifestyle, we're not going to get anywhere. We're just masking the symptoms.
Exactly. Yeah. That is A+. Wrap it up. We should probably quote that and just put it at the ending. Well, Melissa, next month, actually February, this is Heart Health Month, right? So this is a time we'll actually bring up a lot of metabolic diseases. So I think next week, talk about heart disease, stroke, obviously one of the biggest killer in the United States, how to fix it or how to address it. We'll talk about high blood pressure this month, diabetes, high cholesterol, what those things mean, how to read them so that when you talk to your doctor, you actually have an idea of what they're talking about. And maybe some of the common medicines, we might need to bring our pharmacists on.
Yeah.
To better explain what these medicines do so people have an understanding of, oh, okay, I need to take this medicine because this is what it does.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again, Melissa. This was a good one.
All right.